Thank you all for being here. First of all, let me say I'm from the class of 1995. I went through leadership Winston-Salem when there were actually two classes. There was a Winston class and a Salem class, and I believe I was with the Salem class. And so I'm glad to have this group here. The great thing I like about leadership Winston-Salem is it brings together people that normally wouldn't sit down and have a conversation with each other. So I think this is great having this forum here. I'll start off by saying I'm probably not the most qualified person to be on the stage today, but thank you for asking me anyway. One of the things I want to talk about is, first, I have an interesting background in that I spent most of my career in corporate America. Between R.J. Reynolds and Haynes, I spent about 20 years in corporate America. Currently, I chair Community Development Corporation on a volunteer standpoint, and my wife and I, we actually own a small business in our district called Body and Soul. So I have a kind of interesting perspective in that I have friends all over. And I see some people out in the audience that I've worked with in the past, and thank you all for being here. One of the things I want to talk about as far as the goal of Community Development Corporation, when we started the corporation, basically it's a 501c3 organization. And what we're trying to do is rebuild a part of downtown that really had become disinvested. And today we've invested about $50 million between buildings and other things, apartments, we have condos, we have residents, we have a credit union. I see Mark from True Line. So we basically built a little small community. And one of the things that we were trying to do was create a community where everyone would feel comfortable coming to. No matter what your race was, how old you were, how much money you made, basically kind of a utopia. But bottom line is that most of the time that doesn't happen. What most of the time happens is that people tend to be either segregated by their race, how much money they make, or some other factor. Now I have a chart here that hopefully will pop up here soon. And I'm gonna show you some statistics. I'm not gonna speak on these statistics because I know people have gotten in trouble talking about statistics here lately. But what I'm gonna do is just put the chart on, and if you can just kind of flip through that, leave them up for about 10 seconds, just let people kind of read the numbers themselves and come to your own conclusions. So I'll just give us about maybe 30 seconds just to kind of flip through these charts. And just for a point of understanding, the MLK corridor, it's what some people would call East Winston. This was a study that was a part of a master plan that the SJ Atkins Community Development Corporation presented. And just to kind of give you a feel for the community development universe, you have Golan, you have SG Atkins, which is around Winston-Salem State, and you have Liberty CDC, which is Liberty Avenue. And as you flip through the charts, I think you'll see some startling kind of numbers. And what you'll find is that Winston-Salem has an opportunity to do something that a lot of cities are not doing, which is have different people living in different areas. Because what happens is that we tend to cluster, once again, by either how much money you make or what your ethnicity is. And I think in order for us to be a sustainable community and position ourselves and market ourselves so that other people are interested in coming here, we got to do something about these dynamics. So as you flip through these charts...
You did all four. You want me to do it again?
No, I think that was fine. I think people kind of got a feel for it. What I want to do, and once again, this was just something that I thought was a good idea to do, but I did a little research, and if you just give me a minute just to read a piece of an article that was commissioned by the Urban Institute. I'm at one of those stages where I have to take my glasses off to read. But in January 2009, a black family moved into the White House. The election of Barack Obama embodies the considerable progress our country has made in the struggle against racial prejudice, inequality, and exclusion. But it also challenges us to look frankly at the disparities that remain, including the persistent separation of neighborhoods based on race and ethnicity. Residential segregation undermines the well-being of individuals, communities, and American society as a whole. Although we know much less about the potential benefits of neighborhood diversity than the cost of segregation, considerable research found that both whites and minorities gain from diverse communities. Encouragingly, a growing share of U.S. neighborhoods are racially and ethnically diverse, both because recent immigration has made the population more diverse and because fewer neighborhoods than in the past exclude minorities entirely. But overall levels of segregation and decline are declining slowly, and low-income African Americans in particular remain concentrated in predominantly minority communities. The goal of healthy, sustainable communities cannot be achieved as long as current levels of neighborhood segregation, exclusion, and inequality persist. Public policies play a central role in establishing and enforcing patterns of racial segregation in American neighborhoods, alongside discriminatory practices by private sector institutions and individuals. But no single causal process explains the persistence of residential segregation in America today. Discrimination, information gaps, stereotypes and fears, and disparities in purchasing power all work together to perpetuate segregation, even though many Americans, minority and white, say they want to live in more diverse communities. Public policies must intervene to break the cycle of residential segregation. But because the causes of segregation are interconnected, no single intervention can succeed on its own. Instead, we need multidimensional strategies that tackle the multiple causes of segregation simultaneously. You know, I thought that when I put my presentation together, I said, first of all, they told us we could be provocative, we could talk about what we want to talk about. And sometimes we have to make people a little uncomfortable in our conversations. But once again, that's the great thing about leadership Winston-Salem. We can talk about things that make us uncomfortable to the point that we get comfortable. And as Don talked about some of the things that are happening in the future, I think in order for us to be an attractive city and really be as attractive to customers, to companies that are relocating, we need to settle some of these other issues that are happening in our communities. So once again, thank you for the opportunity.